Coming up,
My name is Kechi.
Kechi, where are you from, darling?
I'm from Nigeria, but I live in Houston right now.
this week on the Trailblazers, we have part one of a part two interview with Kechi Okwuchi, plane crash survivor, singer, America's Got Talent finalist, TEDx speaker, and so much more. Now, Kechi's story is so phenomenal. She is one of only two survivors of the 2005 deadly plane crash in Nigeria, which claimed the lives of 107 persons on board. She's sharing how is it that she has managed to not only survive, but to thrive and to find beauty in her scars.
So for me, it became a thing of drawing strength from God and drawing strength from their memories and learning to put this kind of pressure on myself to do my best with this life for them.
Stay tuned.
Special thanks to our partners, the Jamaica Pegasus Hotel, Kingston's preferred choice. Stars Publicity for all your public relations and publicity needs. Get noticed and align with the stars. DG's Health and Wellness Center, operated by certified nutritionist and health columnist Donovan Grant. Contact them today for all your weight loss and other nutritional needs. And Care is Beauty for all your skincare goals and more. Get 5% off each purchase from them using the discount code TAMARA5OFF. Learn more details on all these partners as well as links to their website by visiting the description box on the Trailblazers with Tamara McKayle YouTube channel.
What's your word to them?
I would say to fight for your dreams, fight for your purpose.
Life that inspires you, that motive that you aspire to be. Right?
Meaningful and critical. It's not a waste time movement,
In my humble opinion, is become very comfortable with yourself.
Very important. You know, the saying in Jamaica, one hand can't clap.
You forgive yourself for allowing people to mistreat you.
Disciplines that we need to embody.
You just have to work at it and be committed. Everyone.
And scary to have all of that fall away from you. And you have to celebrate those wins. Work with fitness clients.
For guidance, rely on Christ for support.
And no rush. I did it. I made my move into entrepreneurship at 40.
So chicken, so scared that when
What, last comments would you want to share with
you have your core values, you do the right things, they'll fall in place for you.
Kechi Okwuchi is a Nigerian-born author and award-winning singer. She's an inspirational and TEDx keynote speaker, NBA student, and bullying prevention advocate. Her dramatic story, as well as her impactful messages of resilience and overcoming, combine powerfully to inspire personal and cultural transformation. In part one of our interview, we look at how Kechi found her true voice after her accident, a plane crash that took the lives of 107 of 109 passengers in Nigeria in 2005. Her road to recovery since then, and finding beauty in her scars.
Hi Kechi, it is a pleasure, oh my gosh, a major pleasure to have you joining us on the Trailblazers all the way. Are you in Nigeria or in the US?
I'm in the US.
Okay, awesome. I'm so grateful to have you on the program. And honestly, as I mentioned to Kechi earlier, when I sent her the invitation, I sent it in AIDS because I'm like, she's like super big. I didn't even know she would accept. So the fact that she chose to share her story with us, we are super grateful to have you. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me, sincerely.
All right, so I'm jumping right into your story because you have an amazing story. You have an incredible story. And I mean, you are so beautiful, so gorgeous, right?
Thank you.
Both inside and out.
Thank you.
But I'm going to let you share your story and tell us what happened to you and the journey that it has been since then.
Okay, so my accident happened when I was 16 years old. I was born and raised in Nigeria, actually. And it happened in Nigeria, in my home country. So I was in my final year of high school when it happened. The date was December 10th, 2005. And I went to a boarding school, like most Nigerian kids do. I was in a boarding school called Loyola Jesuit College in Abuja. And That day, December 10th, was the end of the fall semester. So we were heading home for the Christmas holidays. So myself and 60 other students who lived in the same part of Nigeria, which was in the east, we would usually travel together either by bus or by plane to get home to Port Harcourt. So that's what was happening today. So it was very usual. There was nothing strange about that day, nothing strange about us being on a plane that day. And I don't remember anything strange happening that day before the plane crash happened that would have made me feel like maybe like something bad is about to happen or today's a strange day. Nothing. No weird interactions with my friends, nothing. I remember we boarded the bus in school on campus, which took us to the airport. And then we got there and we waited for a little bit for our flight, which was delayed. When the plane finally arrived, we boarded. So it was 61 students total plus other passengers. It was a regular commercial plane. There were 109 people on board, including the flight crew. So we boarded the plane, took off, everything was fine. You know, there was no issues. For the flight is about usually an hour and a half or so, maybe an hour and a half. And I remember we were done with most of the journey had happened, and we were actually descending to land in the Port Harcourt airport when things started to get very messy. So we had most of the flight had happened, and it had gone just uneventfully, like it was a regular flight. So it was about maybe 15, 20 minutes when the pilot makes that announcement that we're going to be descending soon, that the turbulence started. Again, not unusual. You know, turbulence is like a regular thing that happens on flights. No one panicked. It was okay. But then this one started to kind of persist. It got worse and worse and more like exaggerated and more dramatic. And I could just tell that people were starting to get like a little tense because it was a little longer and more intense than, you know, people were usually used to. I've been at that point, I was a veteran flyer. You know, anyone that grew up, if you grew up in Nigeria, like usually you have to fly to get to like very far destinations, just like anywhere else in the world. So it wasn't unusual for me to be on the plane at that point. At that point, I'd been on many flights, so I knew how flights went, and that turbulence was not normal. So it took a little bit of time. I was in an aisle seat, so I couldn't see out the window. But I was made to understand after the fact that it was actually raining, like it was like there was a thunderstorm that day. So that was part of the reason why the plane also crashed. But before that, like I found this out way after the accident happened. But anyway, I couldn't see out the window. I don't remember rain or anything. I just remember being in my seat, like shaking. I wonder what was going on. And then the lady at the back of the plane kind of screams. And that was just what started the chaos in the entire cabin. People started panicking. There was no running around or anything, but like people were screaming like, blood of Jesus, what is happening? This plane trying to land, what's going on? And I remember just sitting there in my seat, like in awe, because I couldn't really understand what was going on. Like it seemed as though the plane was having issues in the air, and it was like something out of a movie. You don't ever board a plane and imagine worst case scenario. Like it just doesn't happen. So I just remember sitting there shocked and still. And my friend, one of my closest friends, she was in the aisle seat next to mine, and we held hands. And I remember one of us was like, we should pray. We should do, what should we do? We should pray. But before anything else could be said, I just remember this loud metal scraping sound that just like filled my brain. And my next vivid memory after that is opening my eyes, and I was in a hospital bed in South Africa, and 5 weeks had passed, and I was waking up from a coma. So I guess at that point I must have blacked out, and I do have bits and pieces of memories of things that happened between the blacking out on the plane and waking up in the hospital in South Africa, but it was only bits and pieces, like things I thought were a dream, but my mom confirmed eventually that did happen, like me asking for her, and me complaining about pressure in my hands, and like my hands feeling like they're about to explode, and lying in the gurney while people were like hovering over me and stuff. So I think those are like flashes of things that happened after they found my body in among the plane debris, yeah, while still in Nigeria, yeah. But then eventually, yeah, I woke up in South Africa, and that's pretty much where my life restarted.
Oh, wow. And I know it's even after so many years, obviously would still be a painful subject. To put it into context for our viewers, at the time when the plane crash happened, it was 107 persons that were on board, right?
109.
109,
Mm-hmm.
and 107 persons died, and you were
Yes.
one of 2 survivors.
Correct.
When you woke up, finally came out of that coma in the hospital, and you realized what had taken place, and you heard that information, what did you do? What was your reaction?
So I actually found out about the truth of the accident about 4 months into my treatment in South Africa. They had to make sure that I was psychologically stable enough to actually bear the weight of the truth. You know, they didn't tell me any of that in the beginning because I was still touch and go, and they had to be careful with my constitution. You know, I was very weak, very vulnerable, and I sustained 3rd-degree burns over 65% of my body. So I was in a very bad place when I first arrived. But 4 months into my treatment, I was much better, and it was clear at that point that I would not die. You know, my life was out of the danger zone. So at that point, the hospital decided that it was time for me to know the truth about what happened. So that was when they told me that I was one of 2 survivors. Because up until that point, I thought everyone else was alive. I thought, you know, no, you don't think about people surviving plane crashes. So if anyone survived, then everyone survived. Like, that means it wasn't like that bad. You know, I thought maybe I had the worst of it. I thought my friends were like back in school. Maybe they had like some injuries here and there. I thought I was the only person that was like I got the worst of the injuries. That's what I thought, and that's why I was in the hospital. So my mind didn't even consider the fact that anyone else, like everyone, would be gone. You know, I thought maybe if anyone was also badly injured, they would be in the hospital like me. So when my mom told me, with the psychiatrist, the psychologist was right there, and my mom finally told me the truth, I just remember being completely shocked and confused. Like, I couldn't believe, and I just could see my friends' faces flashing before my eyes. Like, all my friends that were on that plane, there were 60 kids on that plane, plus me. But out of all of those kids, a lot of them were like very personal friends of mine, people that were in my grade and even not in my grade that I was close to. But it was surreal to realize that all those people were gone except one other person who I didn't even know before the accident happened. Everyone I knew that was on that plane was gone. And I just remember I just cried. Like, I cried and I cried, and I didn't understand. Like, I didn't understand if I could survive, if one person could survive. I was in the middle of learning so much about God and faith, and now I was supposed to face the fact that He allowed all these people to die when, like, since He saved 2, He could have saved all. So that was a very difficult thing for me to process. And I remember I was just really depressed for days and days, trying to wrap my mind around the fact that all these people were gone and I would never see my friends again. Like, it didn't make any sense to me.
Oh, wow.
It took a lot for me to get out of that place, for sure.
Definitely. And we can definitely understand that. And you can still, see that it's something obviously that would resonate with you for your entire life. But even, we're still touching on the incident itself. When you realize how, even with the burns, how badly you were burned, like, what was your reaction to that? How did you handle that?
So let's see. When I first found out how different I now looked because of the accident, this was a little bit after hearing the truth about the accident. At that point, I was still bandaged head to foot. I knew the degree of my injuries. I knew it was all the way from my scalp to my feet that burned. I could tell I was bandaged from I had like a bandage turban on my head. I had bandages on my face. So even though I hadn't seen my reflection at that point, I knew that things were not going to be looking as I expected them to. So I remember I was very curious about this. My curiosity about how I looked peaked as time passed and as I got better. So I asked my mom one day to bring a mirror for me. And it actually scared her a little bit because I think she had been dreading that moment when I would ask this question. And being someone who at that point was very pretty and very aware of how pretty she was, very into my looks, my family especially were very worried about how I would take this, and I was worried too, because a lot of confidence, I believed, came from my physical appearance. So I was very concerned that if that changes, that I would change, so I won't deny I was scared, but I was also ready to face it, to see what I would feel when I see myself looking different. And if I feel badly, then I wanted to do whatever I had to, whatever therapy needed to be done to get me feeling better again, so I can be myself. So the next day, she brought the mirror, and I looked into the mirror for the first time since the accident. And I remember everything was just so pink and red. I had like no skin on my face. It was not, did not look like Kechi. Like, it did not look like what I remembered Kechi looking like. But it was also very surprising, because even though the reflection didn't look like me anymore, somehow there was still something extremely familiar about that reflection. And I think it was like maybe in my eyes, or just the general arrangement of my features that were still kind of there. I can't really put it into words like perfectly, but I could still tell that it was me, even though I didn't look like me. And when I realized that, like in that moment, something just clicked, and it was like, oh, okay, so that means that whatever makes me Kechi obviously goes beyond what I can see. Because if it didn't, then like I should definitely not feel anything like me now that I look so different from what I remember Kechi looking like. But I still felt like it was me. And I believe that was something that God gave me in that moment, a gift for me to not see myself, to not see myself as a stranger, even though I looked so different, and I feel like that was a major foundation for me coming out of this mentally, psychologically intact, and not just physically, because having a grasp on my identity in that way was something that helped me to just live like I've always lived, without worrying about changing myself because I look different. I had this freedom that I found in this realization, where I could just wear what I wanted to, go where I wanted to go, be who I wanted to be, laugh when things are funny, and just continue being myself, continue being Kechi, because she fundamentally hadn't changed. And that was how that moment went. I remember my mom cried because she was so nervous, but she was so relieved when she saw my reaction. And I was relieved too, because I didn't really expect that from myself. I didn't know what to expect from myself, so I think in that moment, I was really grateful to God, because I knew what it meant. Long term, I didn't have to worry about, changing who I was.
Oh, that is amazing. I'm literally like, feeling the tears and everything like that. But I mean, I'm at the same time so inspired, because I'm like, especially for, at the time you were 16 years old.
Yes, I was.
So, that is a period of our lives as women, as young girls, where we are very much conscious
Yes.
of our appearance and how we look. So to have that defining moment where you realize that, listen, you are much more than just the physical. You are your soul. You're the essence of that, Kechi.
Yes.
That was definitely a defining moment, and we are happy you had that moment, because,
thank you,
girl, you were still gorgeous. I'm sure you hear that all the time.
You're so sweet. Thank you so much.
No, girl, you are gorgeous. You are gorgeous. All right, so we are, moving on. And by the way, Trailblazers, this has to be a part 1 and 2, because it is so amazing. So just to continue, Kechi, and then now in terms of the treatment, because you mentioned, being in the hospital for a long time. So how was that treatment for you physically? And also, as you mentioned, you also had some psychological issues that you had to deal with. What was that like for you?
So the physical part was definitely very difficult, obviously, very painful. Just really a place I'm not very I never really I never enjoy going back there to that headspace because of how painful things were. But I have to say that in the end, the physical, well, once you don't die, you're gonna heal, and it's inevitable, So because we have, as long as you're you have functioning, like your body functions like a normal body. You're going to heal any injuries as long as you're alive and there's breath in you. So at the end of the day, the physical injuries, even though they left behind permanent scars, they did heal and cover up. It was really the psychological things that persisted a little longer, and that's not unusual. You know, a lot of times the mental part of trauma is a little more long term, and a little more difficult to deal with than the physical part. But I was very, 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 very privileged and just lucky, really blessed to have been given the best possible care at that point in my life, given access to that, and that was because of Shell, the corporation, the Nigerian branch. I had a friend whose father worked in very high position there. She went to my school, and so she was the one who got her dad to do what he needed to do to have Shell basically take me up and handle my treatment. So it was through them that I was able to be flown the very next day after the accident to South Africa, and I was treated in a hospital called Mill Park Hospital, private burns hospital. So that's where I was for the next 7 months. I was 4 months in the burn ICU, and then I was 3 months in the ward. And that was where they basically saved my life. They brought me back from the brink and they patched me up. I call that my patchwork stage because that was where I got all the major surgeries that covered up all the open and burned off skin. You know, my hands, my legs, the big surface areas that burned off were all taken care of and covered up in South Africa before I was carted off to America eventually to get reconstructive surgery. So that was a different phase of my life. But South Africa was where they saved my life, and I will always be grateful to them for that. I'll always remember every single nurse, every doctor that took care of me, that worked on me, the nurses that cared genuinely. You know, those things don't leave you. They don't leave your mind. But you know, while I was going through my physical healing, the mental part was a little more difficult because of just me trying to understand a bunch of things at the same time. Me trying to understand what place God was going to have in my life and what place my scars was going to have in my life as well. Reconciling the fact that, you know, even though something so horrible happened, God was still God. That was something I needed to learn. I grew up in a Christian household, but I had not at that point developed anything personal for myself in terms of relationship with God. That was something that came after and was a long journey, one that's still going on till today, but really began in South Africa when I learned that I was going to need some other source of strength, you know, aside from myself and my mom's, if I was going to overcome something this big that had happened to me. And so she started teaching me about God, and my family started teaching me about God. And then I found out that everyone that I knew died on the accident, and I just kind of backpedaled, and I was like, I don't understand. Like, he's supposed to be a good God. How can he let this happen? And I remember my mom just worked so hard on me. Like, she was really my rock in that time. She still is, but like then, like she was it for me. And she came through in so many ways for me. She taught me so many things. And she taught me the fact that bad things happen is just by virtue of living in a world that is flawed. You know, being a Christian does not exempt you from bad things happening. And that's just the fact of life, you know. You're a believer, that's great, but it doesn't mean that you're never going to experience bad things anymore. That's just the unfortunate truth. Now, what makes you different, what the advantage that you have as a believer at that point comes into play based on how you react to when bad things happen. So they will happen no matter what, but how you react to them, that's where the defining difference comes in. And that's the role that God should play in our lives. He is the person that we learn to run to when those bad things happen. You know, that's how I needed to learn how to see him. And to me, that was extremely, that was like an epiphany, really, because I realized, like, that's so true. Like, bad things are going to happen to good and bad people. It doesn't pick and choose. But God is there for anyone who needs the comfort that is so necessary after those bad things happen. Knowing to go to him in the vulnerable times and the dark times, that's what will give you that peace that you're looking for, that no amount of surgery can get you. So that was a journey, really. That was something I learned from her, and it helped me in so many ways in terms of my depression and dealing with the loss of so many friends and so many lives. Because I learned over time that if God was where I could go to when things got very, very difficult and I felt too weak to go on, then maybe I could channel some of that strength into my understanding of those that passed away, like my relationship with them. I could either allow what happened to me, keep me depressed and keep me sad and keep me in that dark place. Or just like I'm drawing strength from God when things are hard, I can learn to draw strength from the memories of those that passed away. Because I found myself thinking a lot of times, like, okay, so I'm the only person that survived from my school. I'm one of 2 survivors. Now, how do I want my life to go moving forward? If these people were alive today, how would they want me to live my life? Like, what would be the best way to show that I appreciate this life, this gift that was given to me, in a way that would also honor their memories? Because also their loved ones that they left behind were another thing. Did I want to live my life just down in the dumps, always depressed? Like, how would that make those people that they left behind feel? So for me, it became a thing of drawing strength from God and drawing strength from their memories and learning to put this kind of pressure on myself to do my best with this life for them. And that was something that came to me the more I thought about my mom still talking to me about God, my mom still ministering to me, my grandma ministering to me, my dad talking to me. Like, this was not something that I came to on my own. This was a realization that built over time with all the amazing support that I was getting from my support system. And so that's really where I arrived at. My final arrival point was drawing strength from their memories and dwelling and just praying that God continues to give me the strength to do so, because I wanted them to see me living this gift, like appreciating this gift that life was. And I wanted their parents and their sisters and brothers and their loved ones to also see that I wasn't planning on wasting this life, and these people were praying for me. Like, they constantly called my mom, left messages for me. I mean, they were happy that at least one good thing happened out of this accident. To them, my life was a source of hope, that not everything was lost that day. So I couldn't let them down, I was willing to put that pressure on myself for them, if not for anyone else. So that's, pretty much how I came out of that, I think. Still a work in process, but yeah.
Still a working process, but you have come a far way, and definitely it speaks to purpose. It speaks to the fact that you found, even in the midst of a tragedy, a reason to live, a reason to move forward, and to now inspire and reach the lives of millions across the globe. Okay, so Trailblazers, this is where we're going to take our break, or the end of part 1 of this interview. We're going to return next week with part 2 of Kechi's story, where she went on America's Got Talent.
Yes.
Where she went on America's Got Talent twice, where she met Simon Cowell, where she's a TEDx speaker, and so much more, reaching the lives of millions globally. Stay tuned.
You are the reason.